Bienvenidos a la Madera Mágica de la Mañana. En este episodio hablaremos de dos grandes películas españolas. Mil gritos tiene la noche y SLUGS, muerte viscosa.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, that was Nick Sheehan, who's back in the wood with myself and with Ron. How's it going, Ron? How's it going, Nick?
Good. Hi, welcome back, Nick. Hello?
Sorry, I lost you guys just for a second there.
Oh, okay. Sorry, welcome back, Nick. Welcome.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me on. And thanks for letting me curate this time, Clive.
Yeah. So, we have another guest curated more bugs as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's actually, it's not bugs this time. There's a theme, and we're celebrating something as well. So why don't you tell us what that is, Nick? What have you got lined up for me and Ron today, and why?
Well, we are going to talk about two of the most important works of Spanish cinema, both directed by J. Piquer Simon, or J. Piquer Simon, not sure. Don't even know what the J stands for.
One.
But is it one? Perfect.
Yeah.
And so, yes, in order to show our appreciation and great love for the Spanish people, Spanish culture, it is... Clive, you remind me what day is the day that we should be celebrating?
Well, today, of course, Nick. Silly.
Oh, yes, of course, today, whatever day today is.
Yeah, October the 12th, which is a National Spain Day, which apparently is the day back in 1492 that Christopher Columbus, invented America, because it didn't exist before then, and no one lived there.
Yes, through a sheer force of will, he willed it to exist.
That's right.
Oh, that's why you were speaking Spanish at the beginning. Okay, I get it now. Okay.
Why did you go all camp?
You're wondering what that was all about. So to be honest, both of these films are personal favorites of mine, and have been one of them for a long, long time, at least since I was 17 or 18. The movie Pieces, and then the other film, SLUGS, is based on a novel by a writer that Clive introduced me to.
Sorry about that.
One Sean Hudson.
Yes.
And I have never actually read the novel that SLUGS is based on, but I have read the sequel, SLUGS 2 Breeding Ground, which is a real page turner. Yes, exactly. And so, to be honest, I've seen a few other J. Piquer Simon movies, like Pod People and Supersonic Man, which I also have a great deal of affection for. So, yeah, I thought a couple of his movies would be a good choice.
Supersonic Man is good fun, and Pod. I know we have different views on this, but wasn't Pod People one of the films that they made those morons on Mystery Science Theater 3000 made fun of?
Yes, Clive's irrational hate on for the good people at Mystery Science Theater 3000 and Riff Tracks is something that has already been recorded. He is, in fact, very wrong about this, but we'll allow it.
Where do you stand on MST3K, Ron?
To be honest, I don't really... I mean, I know of it. I don't think I've ever actually seen an entire episode, so I can't really give a good decision one way or the other. I like that type of thing, though, like making fun of old movies and stuff like that, whatever, but I can't talk about them specifically because I haven't seen enough of them.
My guess is you might side with Nick over there in...
My guess is too.
In wrong corner, but that's by the by. So, Pieces then. 1982, like you said, Spanish, shot in Madrid with some exteriors in. But this was actually something I toyed with, Ron, when we took our septic shock road trip to Boston.
I noticed that this was also set in Boston. I was wondering why you decided to go with two Italian movies rather than an Italian and a Spanish one. Right?
Well, I think this was mostly shot in Madrid. I think with just like a few exteriors in Boston. So Yeah, so I decided to go with the other two. So, does anyone want to give a plot rundown on this one? Anyone?
Oh, Nick, I mean, this is, I think you're the guest, you should take it.
Okay. So, it opens in Boston in, I think, 1940-something, 42. And
yeah.
it's got a great opening scene where a little boy is making a nudie woman jigsaw puzzle. His mom comes in and she throws a major wobbler. She starts freaking out. She smashes a mirror. She calls him a filthy little pig. He scurries off camera for a moment, comes back and thwacks her in the head with a big old axe and kind of cuts her to pieces, then sits back down on the floor, finishes the puzzle that he was interrupted in making, and then, impressively comes up with a really great alibi right away. He sees the police coming in, or somehow he knows the police coming in. He hides himself in a little closet. They discover the mum's head in the other cupboard, open it up, and he's like, "Oh, a big man came in."
Big man, yeah. He's quite clever, isn't he?
And then we kind of smash cut, I think, to the present day. But this kind of sets up, we have a sense that this is going to be because, one of the things I love about Pieces is the tagline on the American posters, or I assume on the English language posters, was like, "You don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre."
Right.
Because you can apparently go to Boston or Madrid and maybe have one too.
So just to interject, had you seen either of these before, Ron? By the way, I was just
no, never. I just want to say up front, thank you very much for introducing these to me, for including me on this episode. It was a fun week.
And so I don't know if I'll just very briefly go over the rest of it, like just rather than, because I think there's so much to talk about and unpack. Basically, it is a kind of, in some ways, it's a bit of a giallo. It's a bit of an Italian. As much as it obviously owes kind of a debt to the slashers in America, and we do have this chainsaw, but really a lot of it is kind of this black-gloved, heavy-breathing killer, which more comes from that Italian giallo tradition, stalking kind of cute co-eds on a campus and butchering them. And then we have a series of wonderful red herring characters that it might or might not be until eventually we discover who it is. But obviously it is the kid from the beginning of the movie. We kind of figure that part out because we do get cuts to him putting the jigsaw puzzle back together again in the present day as an adult. And
still wearing his gloves.
Still wearing gloves. Oh, yeah. It must be hard to make a sticky puzzle.
Puzzle with gloves on, yeah.
Gloves on.
So as well, I mean, just in case we do get into spoilers, we should say, give a spoiler alert. But, and not only killing people, but also collecting the body parts and then making a real life human jigsaw puzzle.
A human jigsaw.
Yeah.
Which he's very concerned with it fitting into his mum's shoes. So it seems like he's possibly trying to sew back a facsimile of his own mum, because he has her dress still and he has her shoes. And there's a whole, the feet become very important to him. He really wants those high heels to fit his new mommy. And it's got a bunch of actors I really like. So that's where Sammy Christopher George plays our kind of police lieutenant or whatever he is. And he's also in
who basically farms all the hard work to a student.
A kid. Yes. Kendall.
Yes.
And Kendall, if you are a fan of the movies of J. Piquer Simon, you might recognize as being in Pot People. He plays the kind of the douchebag lead singer of the band that appears in that movie.
Right.
But I don't think he's in much of anything else. And then, yes. And then Christopher George. Well, Christopher George, I'm also eternally grateful to for having done one of Lucio Fulci's movies, which I know you guys watched. House by the Cemetery when you were doing your kind of New England-y episode, right?
Yeah.
But he is in one of those other City of the Walking Dead or Gates of Hell.
Right. He's pretty much doing the same thing he did in The Exterminator in this film as well, right? I think he's almost exactly the same character.
Wait, did he farm out all of the work to a 8-year-old comedy in that movie as well?
No. And one thing's missing in Exterminator. I always remember he had his own little hot dog grill on his desk, which I always quite liked. But he doesn't have one in this. And his missus is in this as well, right? Linda Day
his
George.
real life wife. Yeah, Linda Day. She plays the tennis. And I guess they were married for ages, like since the 60s, because they're in all kinds of stuff together over the years, like TV series. And he's originally from Rat Pack. So I guess that was his original claim to fame, was he was on that military show. Anyway, so yeah, she plays a...
It seems that they actually weren't married until 1970.
Okay, all right.
Also, they were split up by this point?
Oh, were they?
Okay. No.
She's credited as Linda Day, but I'm not sure if they actually were still married or not.
No, this was what year?
1982.
82. They were divorced in 83. No, they were married until he died in 80. He died the next year in 83.
Oh, did you mean they were together from 70? Did you mean
since 70? Yeah, they were together since 70. Right. Yeah, they married in 70. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, until he passed away, because he passed away quite young as well.
52. Yeah.
She plays a tennis champion who is also a police detective.
Right.
And so she ends up going undercover.
Yeah, excellent choice for an undercover agent, right? This very visible public figure who, as soon as he introduces it to someone goes, "Holy shit, it's you! I know exactly who you are!"
Yes, yeah. So
I gotta be honest, I was a little disappointed they went with the old trope of the famous tennis pro who's also a police detective.
Yeah. Oh, how many times have you owned?
How many times you see that, man?
And then what's his name? Frank Brana or something like that. He's the guy who plays Brana. Yeah, he's the other cop, the whitehead, the Leslie Nielsen looking cop, and he's in both movies.
Leslie Nielsen.
Yes, yeah. He shows up then in Slugs as well, and he's in, I think, almost all of J. Piquer Simon's movies. He was obviously his go-to guy.
I think he's actually in every Spanish film ever made. Frank Brana seems to turn up in almost anything.
That's true. He's in a lot of spaghetti westerns and stuff too. Yeah, but he's always awesome. And then Edmund Purdom,
another cop not doing his job and making Kendall do all the work.
Yes.
You better get back to work, kid. That's actually one of his lines.
Yes, yeah. And we got Edmund Purdom, who plays the dean, who is inexplicably English at this Boston University, and he
doesn't have a name. He's just called the dean.
The dean. Yep.
Yeah.
And he is another favorite actor of mine. He's in all kinds of great trashy stuff from the 50s on. One of my favorite roles he's in one of those Viking movies made in Italy, possibly if not made by Mario Bava, I think maybe sometimes anyway credited to maybe Bava. But yes, he's always good.
Didn't he narrate some like Mondo films as well, or at least one Mondo film?
Yeah, well, he's got the voice for it.
Yeah, well, that's the
creepy.
It's interesting to see someone because he's got that kind of caliber, he's got that kind of gravitas about him, and seeing someone like that slumming in exploitation films is always fun.
Yes, and then perhaps, I think the kid who plays Kendall does a great job. His friend, Aaron, he's awesome. The schlubby little guy with shows up with the zombie mask at one point. But then,
well, before you get to Willard, you shouldn't skip over Jack Taylor as a member of Sparks on the faculty as well.
Oh, yes. Like sort of grumpy John Waters.
Yes.
Or Ron Mayle. Yes. He's awesome. And then finally we have Paul L. Smith, who some people might know from Robert Altman's Popeye movie, where he played Bluto.
Perfect casting.
He's in the original Dune, David Lynch.
He's in that Sam Raimi movie Crime Wave. Him and Brian James play rat exterminators. And
he's brilliant in
what
that.
a team.
He was in Red Sonja.
And then,
yeah.
And he's in a crap ton of movies where he's pretending to be Bud Spencer.
Yeah, right.
He's in a bunch of fake Terence Hill and Bud Spencer comedy movies as well. Anyway, but this I think might be his standout performance as Willard, the groundskeeper, who literally in the first scene he's like masturbating the chainsaw and like with the eye twitch, you know, like it's just.
Yeah. He is straight out of a cartoon, isn't it? It's brilliant.
Yes. So I think I'm done if we want to just jump into the parts of the movie that made us happy, because there's a lot of parts, a lot of pieces that are wonderful. So maybe I'll let you guys talk about things you liked.
Paul L. Smith, I think, is like a bit of a totem of what's kind of fun about this film, right? Because he's like, as soon as he's on, it's like something feral has been released or something. Like everyone else is at least kind of, you know, being relatively normal. I don't know what direction they gave Paul L. Smith. Like, because I've seen him in other films as well, and he kind of does a similar thing. He just dials it up a bit. So, here, I'm just wondering, Paul, you know that thing you do? Like, do that, but, like, really turn it up, yeah?
More.
Yeah, more Paul.
He's like, it's Paul off the leash.
Yeah. It's just great. He's just like twitching and all this internal stuff going on. Like, it's just brilliant.
He's so hostile as well. Like even like when he's asked, like, "Where's the phone?" and he's like, "No."
Yeah. Could you turn that very loud siren off?
Like he takes every opportunity to make himself more suspicious as well. Like the scene where he shows up in the swimming pool, which is one of the great scenes of the movie, right? After the girl's been murdered there with a chainsaw, and immediately picks up the chainsaw, so gets his fingerprints on it, and then the cops come in, and he just goes apeshit. He doesn't even wait for them to say anything. He goes into full Frankenstein mode, going.
I don't know how he got
them around.
That job. Like, who put a chainsaw in his hands? Like, what was the interview like? He's fantastic. Even if you don't like anything else in this film, then you'll enjoy Paul L. Smith. And he's rationed out as well. He's not in it because my memory of Pieces from having watched it years ago was Paul L. Smith. Mostly. That's mostly what I remembered.
Me too.
So I expected him to actually be in it more, but he's not in it that much. But when he is in it, it's like, oh, yeah, great, Paul's back. Fantastic.
Well, one of my favorite scenes later in the movie is there's a part where like all the main suspects they've introduced are together in this hallway, and there's like a flash of lightning, and like Kendall's with them, I think, but then Christopher just kind of turns around and looks at them all, and they're all like lined up like an actual like rogues gallery, and the lightning flashes, and he's like doing his full like leaning in and like, you know, like eye twitch, and it's like fucking genius. Like this movie is not subtle. It's painted in very broad strokes, but it's great. But anyway, Ron, you should. This is a first view for you, so can you let us know?
The only thing, I loved Paul's performance. The only thing was that Paul is so obviously not the same shape as the killer that it did not succeed as a red herring that much. Is because he was really trying to say like, oh, it's probably me. Look at me with all my craziness. But I mean, he was obviously twice the size of the person who actually was doing the killing. So it was like, it was sort of like, well, I don't know what they're going for here. But
he's so obviously such a red herring as well. I'm wondering. Was anyone stupid enough when they watched this film?
I actually think it was him.
Like, it would have to be like the stupidest person in the world was like, oh man, I was convinced it was
must be the gardener.
Did you see the way he was acting? His eyes was like only they were picking up on that.
He must have lost some weight in order to go and kill them, and then he put it back on again, right?
We did forget one other fantastic bit of casting as well, and this is something that shows actually how much I didn't know back in the day, because I didn't mention this. I didn't recognise him when I first reviewed this film, and I sure as shit recognise him now. Suddenly, out of nowhere, one of the most ridiculous false scares in this film is Bruce Lee turns up.
Yeah.
Oh yes, this is what I want to talk about. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there were two. I mean, I just want to say I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was really good fun. But there are 2 points in this movie, which we'll talk about, where I literally said out loud, "What the fuck?" Right, and I couldn't understand what the hell was what I was watching. And the first one was of course the tennis pro going outside and she's doing some like sort of she's got her flashlight out and she's looking around. She's sort of doing her researching or her detecting and suddenly there's like a Bruce Lee wannabe that comes out of nowhere that starts attacking her with kung fu. And I was like, "Hey, what's happening?" And I literally couldn't understand. And so then she does this sort of like cartoonish, kick in the groin, and he kind of like, "Oh!" and he like kind of just falls over, and and then what's his name?
Kendall shows up.
Kendall shows up and goes, "Oh, hey, it's my kung fu professor." And I was like, wait, what? So this
and then he makes a cheap chop suey guy.
Yeah, and then I was like, "Oh, okay. First of all, there's a kung fu class at this university."
Professor of kungology.
Professor of kung fu. And then he sets up and he does like the most like racist like Asian stereotype ever. He goes, "Oh, must have made some bad chop suey." Like,
by the way, Ron, how dare you? Bruce Lee was a Bruce Lee wannabe, not the other way around. Let's get this straight.
But I was like, what? It was so out of left field. It was so random. I was like, what? And it was never that character was never shown again. It's like obviously like it just seemed to me like, so wait, did JP Simone just he just had a friend or he knew a guy that could do kung fu and hey, I'm going to throw you in my movie? Like
no, I tell you what happened.
Story of this scene
is this film's a Dick Randall production, right? Who co-wrote the notorious Dick Randall, and he had made a few films with Bruce Lee around this time, Challenge of the Tiger and the totally amazing The Clones of Bruce Lee, and I think he was just like, "Oh, Lee, are you busy? Because we're making this film, can you make a cameo appearance?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Do you mind making a chop suey joke?" "Nah, it's fine."
What I love about it, not just is like everything you said so far is what makes gold, but then the unspoken question that you're left will aid. Yeah, as you said, that there's a department of kungology at this university, but that their professor. The professor stalks the campus at night.
Yes,
attacking random women. I was like, he's a professor and he's just attacking some random woman.
Well,
they
did
hire 8 bad chop suey. This is how you.
They did hire Paul L. Smith as the gardener with a chainsaw. Right? So
that's true. That's true.
And then it's never mentioned. Like she just pops up and goes, "Oh, I ate some bad chop suey. See you." Right? And she's like, "Oh, all right. Yeah, this guy just attacked me in the middle of the night for no reason."
Well, the thing with that scene as well, is they also crank the ridiculousness up just a little bit more. Because if you remember exactly what happens is Bruce Lee comes out throwing kicks at her for no good reason and she's frightened. And then not only does Kendall turn up, he suddenly turns up revving a motorcycle, which he doesn't have in the rest of the film at all. Just so she could go, "Oh, I thought you had a chase."
Maybe you shouldn't use that motorcycle. It sounds like a chase.
and not just riding around the corner, just going rum, rum, rum. It's brilliant. It's anti-genius is what it is. It's like antimatter, right?
You can't even make this shit up. I was like, I assumed they just made it up on the day. Like, hey, we've got a Bruce Lee and we've got a motorcycle. Hey, how can we throw something there? Like, it was so, and yes, the rest of the movie is not particularly played for, it's not real serious, really, but it was so like broad comedy out of nowhere. It took me off guard and loved it.
Ron, you said there's that. I want to know what the other scene that had you
The other scene was so we'll go spoilers right to the very, very, very end of this movie.
Oh yeah.
So okay, so this is so the very, very, very final image that you see in this movie, right? So they, it turns out, okay, again, spoilers. The dean did it. It was the dean the whole time. He was, for some reason, British, but grew up and so he, grown up British, I guess, after his mother, he cut his mother's head off, and and so and he sort of drugs the tennis pro and is about to cut her, even though he never bothered to drug anybody else to cut them up. He just decides to drug her, though.
He paralyzes her, right? He paralyzes her.
With a drug, right? That he puts in her coffee. That he does it twice. Yes. But I was like, well, he never bothered to do that with anybody else, right? So
it's odd as well the way that scene.
The chainsaw.
The way that scene.
And he also puts out a plastic like Dexter, but he never bothers to do that with anybody else, right? So
he's in his own home at this point.
Yeah, the way that scene
plays out, his carpet bed.
Like you said, he drugs her coffee twice as well. I was wondering, why did they go to the trouble? Like, were they just trying to stretch out the tension? So he'll go to the kitchen again, and then the cops are still on their way there. It was an odd choice to have him drugged twice. It looks kind of it's quite laughable when he's rushing back in the kitchen. And
they make a big show of him pouring this in her coffee.
Yeah,
and then he gives her the coffee, and then she drinks it in 10 seconds or something, and it takes more coffee and takes it back. And he just
it makes him seem like a very because he seems slightly buffoonish, right? So it makes him less scary, right? Because he's scuppering around in the kitchen. It's like, oh, you're not a very scary villain,
But actually,
I think that was in itself a red herring, because you're like, oh well, maybe it's not this guy. I mean, he's drugging people, so you think it's him, but no, it can't be this guy because he's too much of a buffoon, right? So
he's kind of a Mr. Bean figure, and I think that's what's funny is that the there's a Rowan Atkinson thing where he does a Shakespeare play or kind of a thing where he plays out these different Shakespearean characters, and it's very similar to something that Edmund Purdom did in one of those old Viking movies. When I saw it, I was like, oh my god, is this where Rowan Atkinson lifted that entire character? And so then watching this, I was like, oh yeah, there is a weird synergy between Rowan Atkinson and that guy. But what I love is that's
how many drinks have you had this evening, Nick?
Just the one. But there's a great part where she's sitting down and he's like, because he gets, like they all do, he gets a lot of great suspicious dialogue, and so in his case, he's always kind of concerned about the university and what this, but it's always, we don't want to, but his lines at that point is like, well, I certainly wouldn't want the campus full of eager policemen searching for dead bodies, or at least the remains of them. It's just, because, sure, that doesn't sound suspicious at all.
Yeah, at all. So anyway, moving up to my second one, which was that. Yeah. So they finally catch him. He's about to kill her, and then the policemen and they break in and they shoot him, and then they get the killer, and they find out, oh, it was him the whole time. Here we found all this. They found the puzzle, and and so you think it's all resolved. They're like, okay, good. So they it's all done. And then at the very, very end, they're like thanking Kendall for his hard work, for basically doing
all the work,
for doing all the work, doing their job for him. And he leans on this bookcase, and the bookcase opens, and sort of last kind of jump scare, this sort of Frankenstein woman falls out. Frankenhooker falls out. Who's, obviously he's been taking the body parts and putting them together to make a new mother, right? So he's sort of like Frankenhooker / psycho kind of whatever, right? And you're like, okay, good, okay, nice little final, end piece and button on the thing, a little jump scare. And then Kendall goes, oh, so I'm like, okay, good, okay, that was a nice little thing. I didn't sort of see that coming. And then Kendall goes over, oh, I forgot my jacket. And he goes over, and then the dead body comes to life and scratches his groin, and with a close-up of, basically right through his jeans, uses her sort of nails to scratch his groin.
What? Doesn't scratch it? Like fucking crushes them.
Using claws, clawing through his jeans.
They explode like blood-filled grapes.
Yeah, they're great.
Burst in her hand.
It's kind of like taking Carrie just that one step further, isn't it? It's basically the end of Carrie.
Yes. But it's worth noting that there has been zero supernatural element in the movie.
Absolutely zero. Yeah, so which is why my second place was like the what the fuck, right? It's like, so. I mean, I get the putting the pieces together, right, to making a new mother and all that stuff, and da 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 da. But why was she still alive? Why was she a zombie, or what was she like? What? And why was she also a killer? Like. So maybe was she the killer the whole time? Maybe it wasn't the Dean. Like, I don't know. What was I supposed to? What were you supposed to get?
Two bits I liked are the killer kind of getting onto an elevator with a female student with the chainsaw behind his back.
Behind his back. That's a big fuck off chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's important to notice that right before that, she had heard noises and she was really like terrified and running through the halls and like trying to find some place to go. And she gets in the elevator and becomes very, very calm and lets the guy with the chainsaw get in with her. Right? Like,
but she does go, oh, it's you, and it's Mr. Bean, so she's not going to be that
right.
Right.
There's a kind of a strange sequence as well, a non sequitur near the beginning. So after you get the prologue, you get this student chick skateboarding down the street very unconvincingly. Like, you never think she's actually on a skateboard for a minute. And then a couple of men with a pane of glass cross the street, which isn't even a proper pane of glass because you see it from the other side, and the other side is just black mat, right?
Yeah.
And she goes through it, but apparently unharmed, because then you cut to her on the campus garden, like doing her homework or something, and then she gets decapitated with the chainsaw, and it's like, what the fuck?
Is it? I didn't know that it was necessarily the same girl.
Yeah, that's the same girl. Well, it's the same actress anyway. Whether she's supposed to be a different character, I don't know. But
so I wondered. Because they do a little jump cut or smash cut to his mom smashing the window, and I wondered if that scene was the killer was somehow saw that moment, and it's what triggers him.
Triggered him to become the. I see. Okay.
The girl, like to go back to this kind of childhood trauma, and then he becomes, because the murders start to happen after that scene, right?
Yeah.
So that was my.
Well, it's something they should either have cut out or added more of, if you see what I mean. Like, as it is, it doesn't make a. Although I do love the decapitation on the. To be fair, that's one thing this film does really well as like all the laughable stuff. The gore is actually really quite good, quite grisly. And
that's a.
One scene in particular, the slow motion attack on the waterbed. I was thinking that's actually quite a well done scene. Like, that's all.
Yeah, I actually thought that myself. I was like, why aren't there more like horror movies with waterbeds? I mean, like. Yeah. I mean, I used to have that bed when I was in the '90s, right? So yeah, that was. It's sort of like it's a hey, I've never really thought about. You don't see a lot of horror movies.
But it's
a lot of people get on a waterbed. So
it's well orchestrated as well. It's almost as if that day, like, Dario Argento turned up on set or something, and he's like, "Hey, Juan, can I have a go? Huh? Can I direct a scene in your movie?
Can I direct this scene?"
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not sure if he's Italian or Spanish at this point. Doesn't matter. But but he's there. Yeah, go ahead. But
no.
So yeah, it's worth mentioning that the gore and stuff is actually pretty strong, and it's a proper gore film, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
but also this laughable kind of anti-classic.
It's just great stuff. Like, so, there's the girl who gets murdered in the swimming pool because she's caught with a giant butterfly net and then dragged over and chainsawed up.
Was it a butterfly net? I thought it was just like a
little net.
But anyway,
and the students can just use the pool as well. Apparently, right? It's not like
at any time of the day or night. Yeah,
unsupervised. Yeah. But then then, you see the police, and they've got all these, like, hunks of her body in, like, big Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
And they're piling them in a little pile on top of a stretcher
Yeah.
to take it away. Like, that's wonderful. And then the anatomy professor, he's the guy who, as I said, is our kind of John Waters, Ron Mayle guy, right? He comes in, and then the chainsaw is there covered in blood. And our police detective is like, could that weapon, or could that chainsaw have been used to make these kind of wounds?
Yes. And then, and Grumpy John Waters just goes, yes, even a layman could tell.
And then, another favorite, what this movie reminded me of more than anything else is that I find leg warmers very, very attractive. I don't know if that's an early 80s thing that
think so.
when I was a kid and would see girls, but we've got
Flash dance and
all that stuff with the girls
Crazy
in the
Lords.
leotards, and it was like, ooh, fantastic. But no, there's the girl who gets killed in the change rooms. She kind of runs around topless for a while, and that seems quite like she's going to appease herself. It's quite grisly and
For
grim,
real,
right?
apparently, according to the IMDb trivia, because they were using like a real live chainsaw.
Without the guard on,
which she was centimeters away from, and apparently she pissed herself.
And they just happened to be pointing the camera right at her groin at that point?
Well, I'm guessing the cameraman must have either been very vigilant and gone in for a close-up, or that's bullshit. But that's what the trivia says, yeah.
And there's the scene we mentioned before, but the scene that does happen in the elevator, like when he just hacks her arm off, it's really jarring. It's really quite effective. And,
it's like
there's like a lot of... Yeah, it's like, holy crap. But no, what I love most about all of that is actually the scene after he kills, because we've got quite a body count at this point of the movie. And so Linda Day goes in, and, she and Kendall see the body, and they come out, and she gives, like, she should have been up for an Oscar that year, because that's when she comes out and she goes, "Bastard! Bastard!
Bastard!" Yeah. It's that one extra...
laugh out loud,
It's that one extra bastard, right? The one bastard too many.
She did one, and I was like, "Oh, that was a choice." And then she did it again. I was like, "Whoa, okay." And I was like, "Oh, that's a nice button on it." And then she's like, "The third time," I was like, "Yes."
Bastard!
Bastard!
Bastard! So, Pieces was also remade. In the early 90s, it was remade in Italy by Lamberto Bava as Body Puzzle.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's nowhere near as good as Pieces, but it has its moments. It has its moments, but I think you would probably dig it, Nick, because you're a lot more forgiving than I am as well. So
right,
you might have a ball with it. You never know. But
although, to be honest, the only Lamberto Bava movie I really like is Demons. Like, nothing else that he's made has ever really jumped out at me as being of any great value, which is too bad, because his dad is such a great director.
Speaking of jumping out, though, I do like Macabre.
It's all right. It's not in anywhere near my top 50, Italian horror films.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I rated that. Okay. Anyway, so Pieces, it's fucking great, isn't it?
Yes. You know what the funny thing is? The Spanish title is so much more like, it's like 1,000 Cries Has the Night. Right? It's like It's a much more, classy sounding film.
Isn't the original title of Awful Dr. Orloff is something like that as well, isn't it? Like Cries in the Night, or...
Right.
Yeah.
But Pieces is probably a much more accurate kind of... Yeah. You know what you're getting into.
Yeah,
the
Pieces. And the opening credits are kind of quite chintzy as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's great. It's the font that I mostly associate with Iggy and the Stooges' Raw Power album. And then these music by Cam, which and the music is another thing that I quite enjoy, because it runs the gamut from being like, as actually Slugs does kind of feel like a ridiculously chintzy kind of like sitcom-y kind of sounding music, to then stuff that could be kind of more like Goblin-esque, to stuff
I was hoping it was going to be Khan under a cunning pseudonym, but it wasn't.
I don't think so.
No. Also, the other thing I wanted to mention about Pieces was I read somewhere, because I hadn't seen Pieces for a long time, so I can be forgiven for maybe being duped. This person on a message board or something said something along the lines of, well, Pieces has done no favors by its very silly English dub. And actually, if you watch it in Spanish language with English subtitles, it's not quite such a ridiculous film. I did watch it in Spanish with English subtitles, and it was like, no, this is fucking stupid. This is the stupidest film I've ever seen. But it doesn't have the brilliant English dub to just give it that extra edge, right? So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate. See it in the English dub, right?
Oh yeah, well, given the fact that like Christopher George and Linda Day, like a lot of the leads are actually Edmund Purdom. They are English speakers anyway, so
what a way to celebrate National Spain Day and a celebration of the Spanish language and culture is by telling you to watch the English dub.
I was just reading the IMDb trivia as well, and there's one more point I wanted to mention, which just ups the ridiculousness of the film. There's the scene where he's stalking the dance class. He reeks through the window, and then they're all doing like an aerobics dance class.
Heavy breathing in that.
Lots of heavy breathing and stuff. So apparently the director, J.P. Shimon,
the heavy breathing.
That was me just watching the girls. Yes.
So apparently the director wanted this whole scene, them all to be dancing naked, because he thought it was more realistic for them to be doing the dance class completely naked, which I think just sums up this movie and his point of view perfectly.
Well, it also brings us to the other point. I mean, I suppose that is the one element that just stops this from becoming total trash heaven. There's a surprising lack of nudity. There's like that one topless scene you mentioned, right? There's not much else in the way of nudity.
And then the girl swimming, she's also topless.
Right. Yeah. But they could have cramped.
But you're right. There's less than you would think, for sure.
So I'm with Juan Piquer on that one. That would have been.
But they should have still had the leg warmers, though.
Then, yeah.
Naked leg
warmers. Wow.
Because your legs, you need to keep them warm.
You
can leave your leg warmers on.
You need 5 minutes, Nick, with that thought in mind, or are you good to continue?
I can probably keep going.
Right. Although I know which thought you're taking to bed with you tonight.
But anyways, I just vividly remember renting this on VHS, bringing it home, watching it with my friends Greg and maybe Ed was there, and just feeling like we'd struck absolute gold. Because with horror movies, you just never knew. You
never know what you can get.
Yeah, and I mean I think we were pretty intrigued by the you don't have to go to Texas to have a chainsaw massacre. Like that's a pretty good come on, but then it was so much better than I think we had hoped it would be. Right. And I remember laughing out loud numerous times, and that's what surprised me was coming back to it. And it's been a while; it's probably been 15 years, but I laughed out loud several times.
Oh yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Just so amused by, and I'm by myself. How often do you laugh out loud at a movie when you're alone?
Yeah. But so apparently it was quite a popular movie as well when it was released, I guess, in '82, right? So that so much that I guess I was reading again on the trivia that the distributor wouldn't pick it up until he went and saw it in the they got the distributor to accept it, because he went to go see it in the he wasn't gonna distribute it, but they went to see a live showing and saw how popular and that people were sort of laughing almost right away. And so because it was
I can imagine this would have torn up a grindhouse, right? You'd have had
or like a drive-in. Like this would have been drive-in catnip. You know.
Yeah, apparently, like people were like laughing and just it was very, very popular, and so they'd gone so far as to make they were planning a part 2, and there's a script. Apparently, there's a script written and available, but they didn't get around to making it, though, unfortunately.
I sold my car, thrown in my jaw. I'm 34 years old. I think it's time I saw the world and not Australian road. I sold my car, thrown in my jaw. I'm 34 years old. I think it's time I saw the world, 'cause I hate the cold and rain and grey and they say it doesn't rain. I hope I can quickly learn the language, yeah. I hope I can quickly learn the language. And the factual fraud presented me with some tapes of Elton John. I hope it might keep me company, but I hate the good vibes, 'cause I'm gonna spend. 'Cause a Norman had a real fun time last year. It doesn't rain. I hope I can quickly learn the language, yeah. I hope I can quickly learn the language, yeah. Mother cried last Friday night when I said that I'll be gone. She packed it up and then cashed in her premium bonds. And I'm gonna spend, 'cause a woman had a real fine time last year. They say it doesn't rain. I hope I can quickly learn the language, yeah. I hope I can quickly learn the language. I'm gonna spend, I hate the cold and rain. And I'm gonna spend. They're right talking about. I'm gonna spend, 'cause a woman had a real fine time last year. They say it doesn't rain. I hope I can quickly learn the language, yeah.
So with that, you mentioned the VHS take-home VHS Gold. That is a nice segue into our next film.
Yes.
If we're done with pieces.
Yeah.
This next choice, Slugs the movie from 1987. This was actually one I remember fondly because I'd heard of it, and then me and some friends got.
Sorry, did you say you remember fondly or you remember fondling?
Both.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Viscously fondling. And I'd kind of heard about, I think there was an article in, I think, Empire magazine, where I think it was Kim Newman and someone else wrote this article, which was like, here's a selection of some of the best bad films you can find on VHS in your video stores. And this was on their list of entertainingly bad films. And when I went to sixth form college, I think one of the first times I went over to a friend's house and we had like a stay up all night, get high and watch shitty films night.
Mm-hmm.
I think we ranked it Friday the 13th Part 2 somewhere, like everyone had a choice.
Yeah.
Someone else rented Ruggero Deodato's Body Count.
Oh, yeah.
I think it must have been heavily cut in the UK. And my choice was Slugs. And
Nice.
I won the crown that night for...
I would think so.
Yes, the finest choice amongst those films.
It's probably worth mentioning, actually, just as a last thing, that Pieces was, I believe, on the Video Nasties list.
Was it? I can't remember.
I believe so.
I wouldn't be
when I was reading
Right.
when I was reading the thing, the Wikipedia entry, I think they mentioned that it was one of those, or certainly was, yeah. Anyway,
I can't remember now, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It's perfect Video Nasty fodder,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Slugs wasn't. Slugs managed to.
No.
Well, it was a few years later.
Later, I think.
Slugs the movie. As if we didn't know already, Nick, tell us what this film's about.
Es muerto viscosa.
Yes.
Yes. So it's about slugs, gentlemen.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in this. I got to be honest right off the bat. I was like, it was a little bit of a spoiler. I mean, it's called Slugs, and I was like, okay. And I watched it. It was about slugs.
Yes.
Spoiler.
Yeah, they didn't hide.
I thought it was going to be about labor union disputes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry to disappoint. But basically, this is, I said, it's based on a novel, that's great to just consider that. But they've set so the original novel would have been set in England, probably London. Have you actually read it? Have you read the?
Yeah. The first one is not set in London. The sequel, Breeding Ground, is set in London.
Okay, Breeding Ground is London. Okay,
which is why I love Slugs, the novel. It's in that tradition of James Herbert's The Rats, and suddenly everything was on the warpath in 70s and 80s paperbacks in the UK. Slugs, snails, frogs.
Oh, yes. In fact,
crabs.
Clive, I was going to recommend the possibility because you had said we should do another. So Guy N. Smith, who's another one of the writers from this era of British horror fiction, who did a bunch of books about crabs. We were going to do a book called The Festering, but I would like to suggest that we maybe also do John Halkin's Squelch, which is about carnivorous caterpillars. It's available for about $2.99 on Amazon.
Done.
Kindle, and
say no more.
It's
getting read.
Same time period, same kind of. He wrote a couple. All of his were invertebrate-based horror as well. He has one about worms and one about something else.
I mean, I know he's a
jellyfish.
Murderous
jellyfish.
It's a bit behind the scenes, but I know he's a busy fellow. But on the off chance, maybe we should extend our invitation here. Then, if you want to come on. Because we were thinking of doing a Halloween edition of Literary as Feck, and we'll do Guy N. Smith's The Festering, and you said a Kindle is available of Squelch.
Yes.
So,
just a great
so we can.
Ron, if you want to come along.
You have a Kindle.
Oh, me? Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Well, if I have a chance, to read it, it depends on. I'm a slow reader, so but if I have a chance and if I read in time, I'll come on.
You have a Kindle device, right?
I do have a Kindle, yes. So
okay, so when were we planning to record that?
That would be.
This is fascinating for our listeners right now. So
yeah. Well,
So it wouldn't be not tomorrow, not Friday, but maybe was it the Friday after? I think.
A Saturday. Well, your Friday, yeah. So basically, a week tomorrow, Ron.
A week tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're not, like as I said, they're not tough reads.
No, they're very short.
They're written for people. They're written for people in grade 6, probably.
Well, let's talk about it after we finish. It's terms of it depends on schedule and timing and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can just send you the links, and then you can start reading them. And if you want to come on. If not, yeah.
It's just Saturdays. I work in the mornings and stuff, so it depends on time and stuff. So.
Right, because it would be in the morning. Yeah, I know. All right, we'll talk about that more. Anyway, back to So. Slugs, the novel is a lot of fun, but it's set in rural UK, if I remember correctly. So there's a lot of slugs and cauliflowers and things. But then, the sequel, Breeding Ground, which they almost did deliver us a sequel to Slugs the movie.
Yeah.
Which I wish they did, because it's basically slugs in London. So it's the city being attacked by slugs, which is just such a fantastically ridiculous, trashy guy. And slugs is
Slugs in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And but Breeding Ground is just if you only read one of the two books, go for Breeding Ground. It's
Jason
great.
Statham in Slugs 2.
Breeding Ground. Yeah. You should forget about those Meg films and make Slugs 2 Breeding Ground.
So basically, I mean, I don't feel like I kind of feel like I explained what was going on in pieces. Wasn't somebody else take the glorious job of telling us about Slugs?
Okay, I'll do it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be difficult, though. So there are slugs. They eat people. The end.
That's
what it.
So once again, this is the town of Ashton, which is a mysterious town somewhere in the United States, which is populated by Spanish people who speak phonetically in English.
Yes.
And therefore give fantastic line deliveries like from space, which is one of the reasons this is so much fun, I think. Because Slugs is one of those films that confuses me, because again, it's got a few nice gore moments, not quite up there with Pieces, but I couldn't quite figure out why we all enjoyed it so much watching it that first night at that party, and I've watched it several times since, and I've still really enjoyed it every time since. And I'm not quite sure why, because it is rubbish, but it's got kind of a weird lilt to it, or a tilt, or it's like the world's gone slightly horizontal, and I think it's just everyone's speaking in like non sequiturs, or like, it's just everything's weird. Like, where is this place? Like, where is this town of Ashton?
The script has a vaguely like Google Translate quality, and even the few actual American actors deliver their lines as though they've had to learn them in another language.
Yeah.
Like there's something,
And other than Frank Brania, you've never heard of any of these people. That's why we're not listing cast members.
What's his face? The lead, I don't know, I can't remember his name, but the lead actor who plays a character called Mike Brady, who I think is not a character on the Brady Bunch.
Yes.
Anyway, Mike Brady is a Brady. Yeah.
Yeah, but Mike Brady is played by an actor who was in the Warriors.
Slugs attack the Brady Bunch. That's the sequel.
The main guy
raped by a giant slug.
Yeah, because Mike Brady played by Mike Garfield. So and with his wife Kim Brady, played by Kim Terry. So it's always good actors when they have to have characters with the same first name as their real.
So they don't miss their cues.
Wait, who are you talking to?
Right. It's funny. The first time I watched this movie, I was convinced he looked a lot more like the actor who plays McNulty in The Wire.
In The Wire,
The Wire than he actually does.
Yeah.
Because I was always like, this would make a great sequel to The Wire, when McNulty's kind of busted down in the force and ends up a sanitation inspector in.
I could actually imagine. I mean, some of the crime scenes in The Wire do seem like places that slugs would. But I think my favorite one is that one of the first victims. There's like this old dude with his dog, and we were talking earlier about angry Paul L. Smith. This guy seems almost as angry. It's just like this angry dude who's angry at everything and just throws his garbage in the basement. Like, he's done. He just throws it in the basement. He's got a basement full of garbage, which attracts these giant slugs, which is, I mean, sometimes they look kind of quite big, and then sometimes they just, I don't quite know. And then, Sean, I don't know if you listened to the commentary at all.
No, not yet.
John
Hudson's
on one of the commentaries.
Nice.
And he mentions, there was no radioactivity in his. They were just carnivorous slugs, which are a thing, apparently. But the movie decided to throw in
some toxic waste
dump that had been filled in angles. That's why slugs are.
So I mean, most of the actors were sort of kind of odd and had odd line deliveries. But I don't know if you guys noticed, but the guy who played the friend Don Palmer, played by actor Philip McHale.
He's
to be honest,
sanitation expert, right? He's the sanitation expert.
He was actually a decent actor. I don't know if anyone else noticed. I was watching him, and he actually stood out. Yeah, I was like, I didn't think anyone else would notice, but I was looking, and he actually stood out to me as being, because he was actually
competent.
He was a competent actor. He was really he was trying really to have some naturalism behind what was an obviously unnatural script. But if you go back and you watch him again, he actually is really trying hard to be real. He has sort of real kind of lives there, and it actually stood out to me, and almost like a sore thumb, because it was so much better than everybody else that was in. So I don't know if anyone else knows, but
I don't need many excuses to go back and rewatch SLUGS. So
look at Don Palmer next time. He's actually a pretty decent actor. I was disappointed to see he hadn't do too much after this. But
was it him or was it Mike Brady who had the line? I never saw anything like it, not even in Knob. Someone has that line, which is great. It's real kind of American 101, isn't it?
Right.
Like, with that kind of thing. There's another great
American as written by Spaniards.
There's another great line where I can't remember who it is. It's either it might be the mayor who gets eaten by slugs in his toilet, when Mike Brady goes in and says something like, "I'm going to declare a national emergency" or something, and he says, "You don't have the authority to declare happy birthday," which I thought was
that is a great line. That was Leslie Nielsen again. Actually, that was from Brandna. There's just so many weird things. Like, there's so many things in this movie that just kind of like don't quite connect, or like it feels like there's the teenagers in the town, right? There's that whole kind of weird side plot that's not really connected to the main plot, and that's great. There's two scenes in the movie that kind of stuck out. I was talking to my wife about this at the end of it. I was like, hang on. So earlier in the movie, we have the kind of the douchey, kind of curly-haired guy who's having sex with his girlfriend. Well, he's more interested in the liquor cabinets, right? And Captain Morgan rum, and then finally gets around to boning his teenage girlfriend on the bed. And I mean, that seems pretty fantastic, actually. Then he puts his foot down, and then
that's the core highlight, I think, isn't it? Especially when she's naked and has the slug sticking out of her eye socket. That's that's great.
That's quite
full on. She's got leg in as well.
That would have pushed it over the edge. But because she's quite a nice bum, that girl. The one you really want to see large slugs.
A slug emerging from.
So that scene's kind of off the charts gross. I mean, even though the first one that bites his foot and then he kind of looks down and this horrible gout of like thick blood just kind of shoots out of his foot, and then the scene where she slips in all the slug slime and falls face down in them is it's hilarious and really gross.
And kind of exciting as well.
Yeah, and so you got her, and you kind of this is a horror movie. It's made in the 80s, so teenagers having sex. Well, of course they're going to get punished, right? Like, screw them. How dare they have sex? But then later on, there's the virginal girl who her choice to not have sex with that guy. She's like, she turns him down. She then falls into an open pit full of slugs and gets eaten as well. And I'm like, well, I guess you just can't win in this situation.
Slugs have no morals. That's the message.
They're not judging you based on your behavior.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
By slugs. so over to Ron, actually, because Ron has of the three of us, I think, is the most squeamish when it comes to bugs, right? Apparently, we discovered before. So did this work for you? Did this get into your skin? Was it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was suitably gross, I guess, right? I'm curious. Were they real slugs? Like, what did they use? Do you know?
Most of them were, including the ones that get cut up and smashed. I'm pretty sure they were all virtually
because I was like,
because I was the money to do anything else.
Yeah, because I was really like, they look really real, so I couldn't tell if they were real or if it was just sort of like this really amazing special effects budget or something they had.
The only time they might not be is in the race against time ripped off from Alligator in the sewers finale. That sewer full of slugs does seem like a conveyor belt in a licorice factory.
Yes,
a little bit like
yeah.
They're not. Yeah, they seem a bit fast moving for slugs, even en masse, right?
Yeah,
but it works. It works. Nothing really. That's the thing about this film as well. Is it's. I suppose that's the other weird thing. Is it's the mixture, it's the off-kilterness, but it's also usually with a film of this kind and a crappy film of this kind, you don't expect this level of production values. Like it's quite well put together. Nothing jumps out as like cheap. And they go to the trouble of blowing up a greenhouse, which is another one of my favorite scenes. Where what I love about that scene as well is one of those scenes where it's not the slugs, it's human stupidity.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning, there's a slug. I'm gonna cut my hand off, and then my wife's running and knock petrol all over the place, and we're gonna explode. It's like, you don't even need the slugs. You're fucking morons. That scene is good from beginning to end.
Yes, that scene is fantastic.
I cheered when the greenhouse blew up. I was like, yeah!
Yes, that scene is fantastic. And played kind of for laughs as well with her vacuuming while he's sawing off his own hands, like Bruce Campbell style.
Did you enjoy this then, Ron?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it wasn't quite up there with Pieces, but I think but I think that goes without saying. But yeah, it was. I thought it was lots of good fun. It got a little bit too at the end. It got kind of like generic actiony, kind of a little bit like with the sewers kind of thing. It's a little bit like the weakest act. Yeah, the weakest act. The third act kind of went flat a little bit. But leading up to it, I thought they had a lot of good good scenes, like the teenagers in the greenhouse and all that stuff. Like it was really, they were good, as you said, good production value and stuff, and suitably gross that you're like stuff like that. So they had some good stuff there. So
there's a few things. No, sorry. There's a few points I wanted to mention, and then I'll leave the floor open for if you have points. So mine were the first opening total non sequitur scene, like a guy in a lake.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
What the fuck are slugs doing in a lake? Like, what's that got to do with anything at all?
Yep.
And then the fact that the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra
is
the soundtrack. And I was wondering about that as well, like, because I caught some bits were very Henry Manfredini, Friday the 13th, but then there were other parts of the score. And I was like, what's that ripping off? Because I think maybe Back to the Future. Maybe a bit of Back to the Future. There's a bit of Jaws, John Williams in there as well. Mm-hmm. But it was like a Royal Philharmonic, like greatest hits of sound-alike themes from other films, right? But I couldn't quite pinpoint.
And there was also some stuff that sounded almost like Dragnet or something like that. There was like a real kind of like police cop show from the 70s, and then some stuff much like in Pieces that could have come out of a Full House or like a totally schmaltzy sitcom. Like it's just very strange musical cues. But I do love the fact that like it's the only movie I've ever seen that has a zoom in on a head of lettuce with a horror movie Sting music, like I just was like, sorry,
that's another great. I love that whole extended thing as well, that
eating the slug and then going to the restaurant and stuff.
Because especially she says, like, she's cutting up and I know she's an alkie, right? But she's cutting up the lettuce, and then she mentions later, she specifically says, oh, maybe it was that salad with the anchovies in it. And you're thinking, do you not remember not putting anchovies in the salad?
I kind of assumed that she had also put anchovies in that. That's the slug kind of got mixed in with the anchovies.
I like the idea that she thought bits of slug were anchovies. She came back and she was like, oh, did I put anchovies? I could be a freaking alcoholic anyway. I don't remember anything.
Those anchovies bled. They bled. Oh, sorry, those slugs and that, like they bled like red blood. But in the rest of the movie, when we actually saw real slugs getting squished, obviously real slugs don't have bright red blood inside them. They have, yeah. So that was awesome. Oh, and also there was the scientist guy who I loved too. Like the guy looks like slaphead John Oliver, like who had he's apparently actually a Spanish actor, and he's been dubbed with this kind of British accent. But yeah, he was awesomely just
hanging out in
there.
Yeah.
Just kind of pathetic, like a schlub. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think they do kind of quite a good job in a way as well of considering that the slug is a very non-threatening entity. Like, I actually kind of, these slugs, they're not, because I think it's just because of the grossness of the kills, like, not a nice way to die. But if you stopped and stepped back, you're thinking, it's fucking slugs, man. Like, how would you not outrun a slug? Like, you're not in that much. Even if there was like a scene of like a horde of them coming down the street, like, holy shit, the slugs are coming! I guess we got half an hour before the
let's just walk.
Grab something to eat and then think about it. It's like,
well, I think it's sort of like the zombie point of view is that it's the amount of slugs rather than how fast they are, right? Plus, they overwhelm you, right? So
I didn't understand from the get-go, and they even mention it in the film, so I'm surprised no one put two and two together. Just go and grab bags of salt and just lob them at them. That's it.
You don't need to blow shit up. And I love the stuff where they're like, well, so if we blow up the sewer, is it going to cause the whole town to blow up? He goes, I hope not. And that was like literally what they went the whole movie on. It was like, well, I hope this isn't going to blow up the whole town. Oh, well, let's go try it, right?
Well, there's no other option.
Just fucking throw salt and it would have been right. So,
I think that's the Spanish kind of take on Americans, right? It's all explosive.
You gotta explode it. Right. And then the only other thing that didn't really make sense. Well, I mean, one thing that didn't make sense was they even said in the movie, like, well, how can we have to, we can use this thing that I've created in my lab to blow up the slugs, but we have to get them all into one place. How can we do that? Yeah. But then they don't do that, but they just blow up the sewer anyway. And then you're supposed to assume that they've all been blown up. But what about all the ones that are everywhere else? You know what I mean? Like it.
Well,
they never actually attracted them all. I mean, the idea was they were supposed to attract them and then blow them up, right? But they never did that. They just
don't forget the classic surprise ending as well.
With the one that's left,
lone slug. Like, what the fuck is that gonna do?
Yeah, because I was like, but isn't there a whole bunch of other slugs too that you didn't blow up? Like it's
So, they clearly needed to do what John Saxon and what's his face, John Carradine did. They needed to turn the slugs gay.
No, they're hermaphroditic.
They already are. They're already hermaphrodites.
Yes, right. They just start wearing leather. That's all.
Yeah.
Carry on as normal.
And singing Village People.
Yeah.
Yes. So this movie
those
doesn't really
slugs have an awfully large Judy Garland collection.
But I do like. Have you ever seen a movie where the heroes, basically the two main heroes, are a health inspector and a sanitation engineer?
Yeah.
That's got to be a first time ever. Like these were our heroes.
So Sean Hudson mentions in his commentary, him and his wife were invited to the premiere of this film. But they showed it. They had some prints shipped over. It wasn't Fright Fest, so there wouldn't have been Fright Fest yet. But it was like a Shock Around the Clock or one of those festivals.
Right.
And he mentions watching slugs in a theater for the first time with an audience was like that scene in The Producers when they put on Springtime for Hitler. You get the shot of the audience just looking stunned.
And then they all burst into laughter, right?
But he's in very good humor about it, is Sean Hudson. He's like, well, I mean, what could I got paid. Like he's got quite a good attitude about it.
But it's a movie called Slugs. What did the audience expect? I mean, like...
Oh, that reminds me. Actually, this is great. So many years ago, I was at a comic book convention thing that Tom Savini was at, and he was doing a panel thing, and there was a chance to ask questions from the audience, and I think I set him up with a question about, because I'd read something about that. What's his name from Reservoir Dogs and Bad Lieutenant? Harvey Keitel, yeah. He had something written into his into his contract, where he wasn't allowed to ever be shown the decapitated head. He was in a Dario Argento short, from Two Evil Eyes or whatever. Yeah. And apparently he had a phobia of seeing his own head decapitated. So it was written into this contract that he wasn't allowed to ever interact with Tom Savini's prop head. But anyway, one of the questions asked was like, "Oh, has there been any movies that you wanted to do that you didn't get a chance to do or whatever?" And apparently he said, yeah, he was supposed to direct a version of The Rats.
Oh,
for New World by James Herbert, and then at the last minute it was pulled from him, and and he was like, "Oh," and they were like, yeah, we're not, we're going in a whole other direction. And then the next month there was like a trade paper thing for like Slugs, coming soon, from like. And he was just like, "What's the difference?" Like he said. So he apparently was mad that he didn't get a chance to direct.
They did kind of make the Rats movie, right? But it was unofficial. It was that one, Deadly Eyes, the Robert Klaus of Enter the Dragon.
Okay, right.
Directed. It's pretty much I haven't seen it in years. Is it maybe relocated to New York City or something like that rather than in London? But so they did make a Rats.
I thought you were going to say Rats Nights of Terror was
no.
Unofficially based on.
Seeing as we're on Harvey Keitel anecdotes as well, there's the other classic Harvey Keitel one, which I still don't know to this day if it's an urban myth or not. Is apparently when they were originally shooting Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, he was in the original cast before they recast everything. And so apparently there's a scene where they were rehearsing where Harvey Keitel is supposed to be standing behind Nicole Kidman jerking off furiously. And as the story goes, he came all over Nicole Kidman's hair.
I could see that for sure.
Maybe she was wearing leggings from the 80s.
Yeah, yes.
He couldn't help himself.
But I will say, so that we've already brought it up, but that one of the like when I was remembering the movie, because it had been a long time since I'd seen it, one of the scenes that came back to me most clearly was actually the scene where the friend, the guy whose wife has accidentally fed him slugs, which we then discover the slugs themselves have a parasite bloodworm in them,
right?
Which because there's two moments where we see these other little squiggly things, these horrible that aren't slugs, but are more like nightcrawler kind of things. But yeah, so anyway, that the scene where he shows up to sign the contract with the in the restaurant, and like that stayed with me for 15, 20 years. That's gross. Like properly disgusting.
Explodes, doesn't it? It's like it just bursts.
But funny enough, it's actually
parasite worm.
It's the water glass. It's the water glass when his nose just starts pouring blood into the water glass. That really, like that's probably.
I thought that scene was quite well done. I thought,
Yeah.
So Slugs, it seems as if we all had a pretty good time with Slugs as well, right?
Yeah, it really only, unfortunately, like if you watch Slugs entirely separate to pieces, I think you'd be like, yeah, that was great, that was lots of fun. But unfortunately, because Pieces is such a high watermark
this is true
of what the hell horror cinema.
But like you said,
so
Spanish,
entertaining.
Like Spanish, I mean, you've got your Louis Buñuel's, but then you've got your Juan Piquer Simon, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, you know what the thing about Pieces is, and this is maybe where, unfortunately, Slugs is slightly less lean. Like you're right, like that last act where they're running around in the sewers goes on just a little bit too long. Whereas there's no moment of Pieces where your attention wanders off the screen or you're looking at your watch, or there's just from frame one to the last frame of that movie, you are there. It just clips along at a crazy pace. The sheer number of people who die, and the weirdness of anything that's not, when somebody's not dying, it's equally entertaining. So yeah, it just, it's.
No, I would say they're both definitely. I mean, yeah, if you're, I don't know, if you're on life support or something and your time is really limited,
Yes.
maybe only see. Well, no, in that case, you should probably be doing something else with your life. But if you,
I love the idea of being in hospital.
Yeah, their bucket list is just all the trashiest films. But if you do have a bit more time on your hands, I would say give SLUGS a go. Yeah. If you're in the mood for it's a good party film. If you want to order pizza and some beers and get some friends around, get high. Well, that's what I did. Get high and watch SLUGS. It's perfect. It's designed for that, I think. More than solo viewing, maybe.
And I think what's funny is when you look at like the other movies that I've seen that he made, like Supersonic Man, which is obviously a kind of very low rent Superman kind of remake, which has a wonderful scene where he rescues somebody. He has to like hold up the steamroller, and they cut from like there's a real steamroller, and they cut him holding it up, and it's clearly made out of plywood, like just flat, one dimensional.
Right.
It's just awesome. And then Pod People, which is like an E.T. ripoff, but strangely has these moments that are not really like.
Yeah, much better in the non-Mystery Science Theater 3000 version as well.
Yeah, like it's not really a kids movie in the way that E.T. is. So it's kind of an odd. What the hell is this again?
So and the screenplay from the Hudson novel by Ron Gamptman, who I mentioned this off air, but worth mentioning. Also wrote J.P. Simon's Jules Verne movie, although I think it's unofficial, Mystery of Monster Island, with both Peter Cushing and Terence Stamp. So that's gone on my list of... I can't believe I've never seen that before, to be honest with you.
Yeah, General Zod and Peter Cushing in the same movie. That's awesome.
Yeah. So so I think that's us done. Thank you once again, Nick, for bringing a lot of joy to the wood.
De nada, Clive.
Normally, me and Ron are just a bickering old married couple sniper. So you bring youth and vitality like a new child or some.
Yeah, it's good when we have someone else because he bullies me less.
Well, okay, let's bring this up here then. We brought this up with Darren when we did a Achafuz, which Ron guested on.
Has that aired yet? Because I'm very much interested. Okay, awesome. That'll be a treat for me on Saturday.
Okay. Eastern Condors and Heart of Dragon. So so it was brought up that Ron accuses me of bullying him on this show. And I don't see it. I honestly don't see it. Darren referred to this as gaslighting bullshit and agreed with Ron that I bully him on the show. So what's your take on this? Do I bully Ron on the show? In your opinion, you've heard some shows, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, obviously, Clive.
Yes, vindication.
That's part of that. That's part of the fun. That's part of the fun of being friends with Clive, I think. Surely.
I don't bully you. What? Do I bully you?
No, I would say less since I put an ocean between us.
That's the key. So I got to move back to Canada and be all good.
Yes. Then it's all plain sailing after that.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize I had this. I didn't realize. I always thought I was Marty McFly. I am, in fact, this whole time.
You're Biff the whole time.
So
let's make like a tree and get out of here.
Get out of here. It's my density to bully you, Ron.
That's
right.
awesome.
Okay, let's all fuck off then.